Welcome back to the Nightlife Podcast, Season 4, Episode 5. Guys, today I am going to be getting a little techie one more time. I am going to be talking to a couple of guys from New York who came up with an idea for a platform for the nightlife industry as they were working in the industry and realized that there was some need for this. This is something that is going to help some venues, definitely help main promoters and curators 100%. So without further ado, my new friends Avanti and Eli from Posh. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good. How are you going?
You're in New York now, right?
Sir, yes, sir.
Guys, so why don't we start by you telling the audience a little bit about what you do?
For sure. So, I'll let Eli help out here, but Posh is pretty much a ticketing platform that's really targeted at the nightlife space specifically, and we're basically trying to automate a lot of the marketing processes that go with throwing an event in the nightlife space. So the first version that we just completed actually really is targeted around SMS and texting, and we're really trying to just make it easy to text everyone and invite them out to your events so that you don't have to be doing a lot of the back and forth manually.
Okay. Are you guys in the industry?
Yeah, and as opposed to these more the traditional event platforms where it's targeted towards the attendee, we're trying to focus ours around the promoter and making things easier for promotion. So that's what kind of separates it from the rest of the ticketing industry right now.
Right. So that is an issue I've seen actually. I've actually, met with a few people that are working on different types of platforms and that's one thing that I've definitely seen before, that there's an issue. Everybody concentrates on venues and they leave the promoters out of the game in a way.
Right.
Actually, I feel like whenever somebody's building something and they leave a big part of the industry out of the game, especially promoters who have strong feelings are not going to be happy about it, and they're not going to help. You need the promoters to grow, right? Don't you think? Is that where you've been before as promoters?
Yeah. So originally Posh was actually a hospitality group that we started. So just a little background. I'm a DJ, and basically I've been DJing. My dad's a DJ. I've been DJing for probably 10 years. And basically coming from that scene, like DJs are treated horribly in the scene. They're paid late. You have to really fight for your keep because there's a million DJs. And so just kind of doing that, I didn't like getting hired by the hospitality groups that were in New York because they just kind of would always treat me poorly. And Eli's from a similar situation. I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah, I was doing photo and video, actually shooting for Avante a few times. And so that's how we got to know each other. I shot some of his gigs, and I had similar concerns with the industry where I felt like photographers and videographers should be getting more respect from the hospitality groups than they were, and the pay is inconsistent. So we were we had different jobs, but we were running into a lot of the same issues with stuff being unorganized and not really liking our roles.
Then we started Posh just originally as a hospitality group. We're just throwing parties targeted at the college scene because that was kind of our group. We both got NYU. And we were getting kids from NYU, Pace, Columbia, kind of all over the city. We had, how you describe the whole promotional hierarchy. We had some sub-promoters. We were hiring DJs. We had to find the venues. And we were kind of just doing all the operational side of things. We got to know it really well. Our parties were, nothing crazy. You've had some pretty big guests on the show. But, we were doing around 300 people on average per weekend, per event.
Right.
And that was only after about building the brand for about 2-3 months. So we went from literally nothing to about 300 people. And then from there, I was doing some startup stuff before. So was Eli, and he actually is a developer, which is where his main value is now. And we kind of just put our heads together and we're like, listen, the ticketing platforms that are out there are not targeted at nightlife. They're targeted at solving a bunch of things, but none of them are specific to nightlife.
Right.
And we have the tech, we have the know-how, and we kind of have that younger viewpoint on the industry where we can help kind of automate a lot of these social media marketing tactics that people are using with technology.
Correct. What would you say is the biggest problem that you are solving with this platform?
I think a good point you brought up is that so many of the ticketing platforms fail to acknowledge just how integral the promoter is to the whole nightlife process, and also the relationship between the promoter and the attendees. So the ability to easily mass communicate with your attendees while keeping it individualized, where they feel like the promoter is reaching out to them. That's something that's really difficult for promoters to do manually right now. So we wanted to solve that problem by integrating SMS tools and also scraping Instagram profile pictures that promoters can easily remember who their attendees are and communicate with them.
That's cool. That's cool stuff. So how long ago did you guys start building this, by the way? I don't know if you mentioned this. I don't think.
Yeah, so that was another part of our pivot, I think, is we were throwing these events. They were going amazing. Like the last one we did was actually at a place called Museum of Sex, which is just like a really cool event. No one was throwing events at, like, we were trying to do like really different out of the box stuff. We saw that a lot of promoters, the other reason I got mad is like, there's no personalization when you're working for someone else. And these parties are so like kind of stale, like get fucked up Friday, status Saturday. Like, what does this really mean? Why are people coming out to these events? So that's kind of what what our events were about. It was like, come to the Museum of Sex and do a sex themed party. Like, of course college kids are going to want to do that. And we got branded condoms and really went all out. And so that was the last event, and that actually was on our own ticketing platform because Eli was already creating that before we decided to white label it for other people.
Right.
And then COVID hit, and then it was like, we can't throw any events, but we were already on the track to building this platform. And that was around, March. And so then we just took the full dive into just really doing a lot of customer discovery, doing interviews on Zoom with other promoters and people affected by COVID and seeing what features they wanted and how they thought that they would come back kind of stronger than ever. And then, yeah, we kind of just hunkered down, got the word out to as many people as I could. Eli was sitting there developing every day, and now we're kind of eventually, we had our first 2 events on the platform this weekend. Actually, very happy to announce that.
Cool.
And that's starting to come back. We actually have some traction.
Are these events in New York or elsewhere?
Yeah, both of them are in New York. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad to hear that there's that it's coming back over there. That's a good thing to hear.
Somewhat coming back.
Right. So, all right. So the I want to try to understand how this whole thing works, because you mentioned now white labeling, and when people talk about a platform for ticketing specifically, first thing that comes to mind is Eventbrite. That is the first thing that everybody will think of. Right. Nowadays, even more than Ticketmaster, even though Eventbrite is more for the mid-sized to large events and even some small ones. But in general, it is really more of a platform that promotes everybody else's, and you can find other people's promotion and all that kind of stuff. What exactly do you mean by white labeling in this case?
So the key is what you just said, which is that Eventbrite markets other people's events when you're on an event page, right? So if you're throwing a party and your attendees are coming to your page, they're seeing events from other people, other hospitality groups, and potentially maybe leaving your event to go to someone else's on a night or getting attracted to other hospitality groups. So the difference with the white label platform is not only is there no Posh branding on the event pages that are on our site, there's no other events or hospitality groups advertised besides yours. So if you set up an event and your attendees come to that page, they're only seeing the details and ticket options for that event. And it's all branded so we integrated custom coloring. You can put your brand's logo in. So it basically looks like if your brand had your own website or ticketing platform. I mean, there's really nothing else from any other groups. Avanti, maybe you want to elaborate on why we did the white label?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is, even say they weren't marketing your events to anyone else, you still have the Eventbrite name on there. It doesn't really feel like your own thing. And it's their coloring, it's their, orange and white branding, and it doesn't really feel like a page of your own. It just seems like you slapped a flyer on and some words. They all look the same. So we really try to make it so that you could make the page your own, with kind of, obviously it's not a drag and drop web builder at this moment, but really taking that kind of Squarespace ideal of like, hey, make this your own, really brand it yourself. And then when people come to this page, like, they're only looking at your event. So there's no link to anything. There's no search functionality. I cannot find out enough about an event unless you send it to me. And now, just like Eli was saying, like, for Eventbrite, that would not work because they're made for the attendees. They're not really made for the curator. Right. But on our end, we're made for the curator. So obviously, yeah, it's a downside if you can't find events near you for the attendee. That's not what our purpose is. And really sticking to your purpose like something that we really think is important, especially when you're a startup. You got to be really narrowed in on what you're trying to do, and what we're trying to do is just improve the curator experience as much as possible.
So I want to make sure that I use terms in this show that my audience understands well. When we are talking about curator, for you, is what we see in general over here, down here, for example, in Florida, as the main promoter, or the person who is in charge of producing a whole event. Or, some people think that's the issue. A lot of people don't understand how the industry works. So a lot of people say, oh yeah, you rent out the venue. No, it's not really a rent out. There's different kinds of deals. You can rent a venue. I'm not sure what the events you were doing, for example, at the Sex Museum or Museum of Sex, but in general, there are different types of deals, whatever. But the curator would be equivalent to that main promoter who is in charge of producing his whole event, promoting it, and everything. Correct. Then, for us, that main promoter has a group of sub promoters working for them, which is what you guys call the promoter. Is everybody, every young kid, old kid, whatever it may be, who's bringing people, bodies to the venue, right? Now, you can have an event curator or main promoter actually bring in their team of promoters or sub promoters to the platform and do the promotion through them.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So obviously, as you said, and I've heard you say this in earlier episodes as well, as like the promoter, like you cannot outsource the promoter. Like the venue cannot go direct to consumer, because the biggest thing is that the promoter has that personal relationship. So we're not here trying to say to venues we're not even trying to pitch venues. We're trying to empower that main promoter, like you're talking about, and say, look, maybe you don't have to hire as many sub promoters because you're going to have a bigger reach, but it's also going to be easier for you to retain your current attendees and your current crowd, because you're going to know how they look. You're going to have their profile pictures right there on the page. You're going to be able to text them right from the dashboard, and then eventually have even more outreach, via Instagram, email, etc. So you can really have a full comprehensive CRM that just makes it easy to manage, every single person that's ever come to any of your events. So we're not trying to outsource that at all.
Got it.
And in a way that really benefits the consumer as well, because would you rather go to a venue and not know anyone, or would you rather have a personal relationship with the promoter that's bringing you out and be able to go to different venues week by week? So it kind of benefits the whole market.
I mean, I can talk about my generation, and there's no way that anybody would go anywhere without knowing somebody there. Right. I mean, I know that the newer generations, there are some changes in that, as to the fact that everything is on their phone, and through here they don't mind swiping and getting going into an event that they get a discount for on an app or whatever, that kind of thing, and they might not be as interested as in the personal experience as much as we did. But I think that aspect is always going to be there. I mean, you rather be welcomed by somebody than not welcome at all, and just.
Would you say that's the biggest change from the older generation to the newer generation, or what do you think it is?
I think it's the most important. I don't know if it's the biggest, but it's 100% the most important. I think, and it is actually one of the things that I try to teach, is that to keep that little, touch of the old school in your hearts when they promote. You know what I mean? Like having a phone and being able to send text, to a mass amount of people saying the exact same thing works, and it helps a lot, especially SMS. The fact that you guys are adding SMS is super positive, but that is not going to take away the fact that if I am able to go visit somebody at their job and put my hand on their shoulder while I talk to them, person to person, it's going to make a larger effect. Even if I'm not, because I want to do many people, if I'm able to call them, that's going to make a difference too. Now, that again, we need, when it comes to promotion for clubs, you need as much, things as possible, as many weapons. I call them in my book. I call them weapons, and you gotta go out there armed. You gotta be ready for all the different things. So I'm glad. I like this. I know you guys are not the promotion is not really through email, but you collect people's emails, correct?
Yep. The 3 data points that we're collecting right now are phone number, email, and Instagram.
And boom, that right there, Instagram, huge.
Exactly.
Huge.
So none of the other platforms collect that either. That's a big thing that we're trying to have to set us apart, is that Instagram is really important at the end of the day, because once you collect Instagram, you can see who your attendees' followers are and who their friends are. And that makes it easier to find new people. When we did a lot of research and did a lot of interviews, the number one problem that a lot of promoters had was like, how do you find new people? Like, you sit down on the first day of class and then like you meet your new people, say you're in college or work or wherever, or you can meet 2 or 3 people a night going up to them, but you can't meet that many people that come out. But once you start having that Instagram, you can sit there and say, all right, these 100 people came out last time. I'm going to DM the people that are within their network. And we're actually trying to create tools right now where you can find those people that are close to that network. So there's basically going to be like tools where you can see who are the 5 people that interact with Julio's account the most. And that will list your dashboard. And then we can prompt you to say, hey, you should DM these 5 people because they interact with Julio's account the most.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, and those whole 5 degree of separation also, you start seeing, or 6 degrees, I think, you start meeting that other one that knows the other one and knows the other one. And that's how it grows. That's, it's the new word of mouth in a way. So I like that a lot. And there's another aspect when it comes to you, when you're throwing this event. It all really depends on the type of event you're throwing. I know that you guys, as Posh, you guys, when you were, curating events, you were going to a high-end clientele or to a good clientele. It's the same thing that we did over here. We have been, towards the high-end Latin clientele. And so for us, in a way, being able to see who it is that we are catering to is a huge plus. In many ways. I mean, it tells us who they are hanging with because people post everything on Instagram. You can see, what kind of events they're going to, if they're going to your competition, if they like what kind of music, all those things. By the way, that brings me to another thing that you mentioned to me and I wanted to talk about is you said something about tagging people on your platform. What do you mean by tagging, and what kind of tags can you have?
So in the back end of Posh, we created a system where there's a global attendee page. So anyone that's attended your event shows up in the same place. And tagging is basically creating your own labels. So I can create a label called High Spender and attach that to all of the attendees that were above, that generated above a certain revenue threshold for all of my previous events. And where that helps is, if you're having an event that you want to gear specifically towards high clientele, or you have a higher amount of tables available, maybe you'll want to go to your global attendee page and filter to only see your high spenders. And another great thing you just mentioned is on Instagram, right? Or at the events now, something that's great is Instagram allows us to see which type of music the attendees are interested in as well. So if you have a hip hop crowd, you could go through your attendees and tag who's into hip hop. And then for your hip hop event, only pull up the hip hop people and market that event specifically to them using the SMS tools that are integrated right into that tagging system. Avante probably knows some other uses. I know he's really hyped about the tagging system.
I mean, that's the main thing is just, filtering your crowd and then immediately selecting all the people in a certain demographic and then being able to text them immediately. And then eventually, obviously, email, and then whatever you can do with Instagram. But tagging really just helps you segment your audience, not just by spend, but also, by anything. Whether you throw Latin parties one night and then EDM parties the next night, and you want to keep it separate, you can, advertise to those different audiences. So that's a really big tool, Obviously, without SMS, tagging wouldn't really be, or without any outreach tools, tagging would be kind of pointless. But that's a big thing. Is these are kind of tools that already exist in CRMs, which are customer relationship management tools.
Right.
Salesforce or HubSpot, and C-suite level, or not even C-suite, but people with marketing degrees, people that do a lot of marketing all day might know how to use these tools, but in nightlife they're not really commonplace. So we're really trying to introduce that to the nightlife scene in a really seamless kind of fashion. If you go to our UI, you're going to see it's very simple. It's not like HubSpot, which is going to have a million tabs. You're not going to understand it. It's very difficult. It's, add a tag to someone and text all these people with this tag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Julio.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before there were CRMs, what would be the easiest way to segment your audience or keep track of who's into what? Or did you just have to memorize it and know them super well?
Dude, from the promoter all the way to the bartender. We had to memorize people's faces honestly, and what they, bartender, it was huge for a bartender to memorize the drinks that their regulars knew, and it may exist a little bit in the industry to those who are still old school, but people just don't like that kind of thing anymore. You want the information, the data is important today. That is one of the issues that there are. So this is huge in that sense. Something that Avante was talking about. You can't imagine how many times you end up in this industry when you have a large database. We're talking about, we have 250,000 emails, and you're thinking of the possibility of not sending one today because you don't want to bother those people that are not interested in this event, but you don't know who they are.
Exactly.
So having data, separated, segregated, in that way, being able to tell that easily by tagging with what matters to you, and you being able to create those tags, and that's huge, and that's a game changer. The fact that you can SMS, and I also saw something that you guys are doing, which is that SMS is also a personalized one too, which is important. Mm-hmm. Even though people know that it may be AI doing so, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
People like their names. And people like being told their names as they like reading their name when they see a text. It's way more personal than something coming, and just saying, click here for a discount or whatever,
That's the funny part. It's not even like high level marketing. It's more just basic psychology, like calling someone by their name grabs their attention more easily. And like you said, we have a custom variable feature in the messages. You can select 200 people and say, hey, first name. And when they get the message, their first name will be in there. So when it pops up in their messaging app, they don't think it's some automated message because the person is saying their first name. Right. That's been huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, that's one of the things that I have my promoters do, and I tell my students to do, is sending out a mass message to the crowd, just saying hello one day without any promotion whatsoever, just to see what happens with their phones. And everybody goes crazy because everybody gets an answer.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah, just sending something like that will get people's attention to react, to answer, because it is just a simple, I am starting a conversation with you. I want to know if you are attentive to my messages to you. I'm not trying to sell you on an event. I'm not trying, so, because one of the things that promoters have become is too pushy sometimes. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are like, oh my God, a promoter again trying to get me to do this. And I'll give you an example. It used to be, for example, with Herbalife, for example. Herbalife used to be like annoying or whatever. With this new generation, that they're making real money with it, because Herbalife is a product that works, but now they have social media and they have ways of showing others, look, this is working. Look how big I'm getting. Look how fit I am now. Look at all the energy I have. Look at all the people that are working for me. Look at the new house, the new car that I have, sharing all that. They don't really have to go out there and try to convince you. Now people are coming to them, But anyway, we're starting a conversation like that, just sending out a message with the people's first names, because I cannot do it with a first name by sending a mass message, from my on WhatsApp, for example, to groups or whatever. But if it's personal, I can't imagine how many people, if I send 10,000 text messages out there, I have no idea how I'm going to answer all those. At least 20% of them are going to answer right away.
There's some data on SMS. We saw that 98 most SMS campaigns actually have a 98% open rate.
Yeah.
And so
crazy
is that like he even gets like, because like there are already promoters sending out mass messages, but not with personalized data, A, and B, the services all suck and they're not integrated right in with the ticketing platform. Right. But like digressing from that, like when Eli was talking about, like he knows that it's like promotional material and it says like, hey, come out this Friday, something very like cringy, and he'll still open it because you just open your texts. It's not like email, you just let it filter to the bottom.
Right.
Even if it's junk, you're gonna open it and see it. So that's why we want to start it with SMS. And
what do you guys think about, like, do you think email marketing is possibly dead now? Or,
I don't
for Nightlife at least?
So I don't think, it's definitely not going well for nightlife. It's not as good. I mean, it's definitely, for example, I know in my case, it works for online courses, and all that,
Yeah.
self help stuff, whatever. But it is still on people's phones. You know, the only issue is that you do get a lot of scam. You do get a lot of emails that spam. Sorry. So on the phone, it's been a little more controlled. The spamming part, you are getting some spam nowadays, but it's not what what it used. So I think SMS is way more important that for example chatbots on Facebook or WhatsApp or any of that. Text message is the most personal. Before making a phone call, the most personal that you can do on a mass level. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
That people are going to open. That 98% open rate is true, and it's real. It's people actually read it, open and read. If it's not salesy, they're going to click on it. Also, and if I am not receiving, because when it becomes a problem is when you start sending text messages. Let's say a promoter has 3 parties during the week. One is Latin, one is hip hop, and the other one is EDM, and they're completely different parties. It's 3 different crowds completely, or if it's a venue even, and they have different parties with different promoters, whatever. They try to promote to all their clientele, all their events, does not work, because every client that loves hip hop is going to get tired of getting a message saying "Mamacita, te quiero ver tonight." It makes no sense. So the more personal you can get, even better. If you tag it, guys and girls, for example, and you start sending those messages the way you speak to a guy versus the way you would talk to the girl, because they're getting a message that's coming from you. So you have an idea of how you speak. You're going to write out that text. It's write it as personal as you can. Take advantage of this kind of thing to make it personal again. That's the whole point, because that is what people are looking for. And that is the one thing that will not be replaced. That's why the promoter is not going to be replaced, because the PR is always going to be the promoter. The promoter is going to be taking care of the client. I don't know when, they've tried already with bartenders being AI, but those bartenders make a drink, but they don't have that conversation.
Facts. Yeah.
So it makes no sense that bartenders. You ask all my bartenders, and they're gonna tell you that they are psychologists, underpaid psychologists, or some overpaid actually.
Is that a side effect of COVID that you're worrying about, where maybe venues are going to try cutting down on staff and it's going to result in like less personal experiences, or do you think they realize that that's dangerous?
I think venues realize it's dangerous, but some may try, stuff like this. Definitely, the first thing they're cutting off is actually on the promoters. And it's a mistake. I can tell you right away, it's a mistake, because you don't want to cut anything that has to do with marketing, advertising, promoting, bringing people.
Right.
Promoters are bringing the clients. They're sales generators, in the end. So it is a mistake, but the way they see it is, okay, so I have a deal with the promoters and they get 20% of the sales from my venue, but I'm supposed to be at 50% capacity. Why would I need this guy to bring me this venue at 100%? I can do 50% capacity on my own.
Right.
That's what they try. But then they realize, no, people are not coming back to a venue with 50% capacity because it's boring.
Yeah.
Unless you have 50% capacity, but you bring a promoter who knows all that crowd, and those people that know each other can hang with each other and still have a good time, even if it's at 50% capacity. And this promoter will also know who are the ones that are going to be spending the right amount to be able to be at 50% and still make the money. So,
Right.
so they're going to end up coming back, one way or another. They're going to try to cut down on some things. I do think AI is one of those that some are going to try, but it's still going to be an investment too high for some that's not going to be worth it in the end. That conversation again, bartender, that, and the flirting, the fun, there's so many things, it's you make
Even
exactly. So I think that's the part that you guys have here also correct, because it is, even though it's an automated thing, you can make it as personal as possible. For example, the possibility of, I mean, you can have the sub promoters use the platform themselves and make it look like it's their thing that they're promoting, and it's not really somebody else's promotion. A lot of promoters don't like to promote an event because it promotes their main promoter or the venue more than themselves.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The fact that you cannot, for example, steal between one promoter and another, you don't get to steal their clientele. That you can pick and choose. For example, if you can control, who owns the data, who's going to control the data, all that kind of thing. I know you guys are not onto email, and I don't think you need to be worried about the email. There are others that are working on stuff towards the email more. And again, platforms that are dedicated to email, all you got to do, I understand, is that you download that information and then you bring it over there, right?
Yeah. You can import and export data on Posh, which is something else that a lot of CRMs have that ticketing platforms don't have in terms of importing. So because we have the SMS tools, it's so imperative that you can bring that data on. If you switch over from Eventbrite to us, that you can bring all that customer data in and immediately start contacting them from the dashboard before you even throw your first event. So, that's crucial that we have that. And going off of that, we're definitely planning on, integrating email or other tools. But, as I said, as a startup, you want to really start with one tool and just really perfect it. So
right.
We're really trying to make that tool just as perfect as it can be, have our first events, see how people like them, and then go from there and iterate.
I mean, it is the one that works the most at this time. I mean, SMS is, again, the most open rate. It's going to be that one. And I think promoters out there know this 100%. I mean, you want to do everything. Again, people want to send their emails, people want to send their text messages, people want their WhatsApp, people need to make their calls. A promoter needs to do every job. The fact that you're making this one so much easier for them is a big plus, and that is what it's all about. They want to automate as much as possible. You need as much data as possible to be able to grow as a promoter. For you to be, hired for bigger, larger events, there's nothing better than actually saying, you know what, look, here's my data. I have this many people, and you're looking for people of, with this kind of demographic, or with this, that they like this kind of stuff or whatever,
right.
or they drink this product, whatever it is that you may separate those tags. It's huge. The more tags, the better. And not bothering people for stuff that they're not going to be interested in it's also a huge thing.
Yeah.
What would you say that is the best thing that the platform does?
We probably have different answers for that. I don't know. You want to go first, Avante?
I think the customization personally. Personally, I think that, like we said in the beginning, Eventbrite, they don't make it a page that's your own. And it's not just the event pages, though. We're also making custom landing pages that you see before. It's your own event, your own hospitality group's profile. So people can go to your hospitality group's profile, which is very custom. Again, like we said, you have your brand color, you have their name, you have customizable background images, etc. And then they can go to your events from there. But it really looks like your own website instead of Eventbrite, where you're just feeding them more traffic. And eventually, right now, you already have a custom subdomain when you create an account on our website. So it would be like juliosparties.posh.vip. But eventually we want to also move over to custom domains as well. So it can literally be parties.com, not a word of Posh on the website. And it looks like it's really your own website that you're hosting the parties on, that you have the guest list on, everything. And so it's really your own marketing engine right there.
Right.
That's a cool feature. I think I have a better one. Julio, do you use dark mode on your iPhone? Or do you have an iPhone?
I do.
Do you use dark mode?
I do, yes.
How much better is dark mode than the light mode?
I am dark. I like dark myself.
Right? So all the ticketing platforms, especially Eventbrite, they're all in light mode. They all have like white backgrounds. They're so ugly and it hurts your eyes. So I think that the fact that the Posh UI has black backgrounds is really big. And it also just gives like more of a nightlife theme, but it's a huge saver if it's late at night and you're looking through all your attendees.
Right?
Yeah, much better on the eyes.
You must be the one that designed that whole thing, right?
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, so no, I like both things. I like, as a matter of fact. You touched on something right now, which is that you are focusing on the nightlife industry. Because a lot of the platforms do a little bit of everything, and they try to grow in every sense. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've seen some that are doing, church events and, and circus and whatever they can that sells tickets, the ticketing period, that they go in that direction.
Right.
So I like the fact that you guys are nightlife, directed, but no, I don't know why you made that decision though. Why would you say?
I mean, I guess I could start with that. I think obviously like we said in the beginning, we come from a nightlife background, and I think that, like, again, taking into accountability the startup mentality, it's like you really want to know your market, and we have that experience. We knew what the problems were. You never want to create a solution before knowing what the problem is, and we both just felt there were so many issues that were not being addressed by the current incumbents. So we really just wanted to target something that we knew about, and maybe exploring outside of the nightlife space after we really crush it in nightlife could be a potential opportunity. But we really think that nightlife's underserved, and that we have some knowledge that we could bring to the table here in terms of marketing, startup knowledge, etc., to really disrupt the space.
All right.
Well
now.
said, yeah.
All right, that's cool. No, I like that. Good answer. Do you guys are open and ready, right? You said again you have a couple of events this weekend, right?
So if people went to our website, they wouldn't be able to sign up. They'd just be able to join our waitlist for the official launch. But if they wanted to reach out to us, I'm happy to display contact information or whatever, and we're basically taking people on one by one right now.
Okay.
Before we officially launch in about a month or two.
Okay. Where can they contact you guys, just so that we leave that information?
It'd be Avante at posh.vip. So just AVANTE at POSH.VIP.
Right. So I know for a fact I'm going to be, talking to a lot of promoters about this, and in students and people that listen to the podcast for sure. Because I like it. I think, just looking behind the scenes at the back end of it or whatever, it made a lot of sense. It is 100% the first one that I have seen non-app, which was a good decision, that is focused on the promoter first, or the main promoter, or the event curator, however you guys call it in your countries. But so that I like, because I again, starting as that, and that's my background, so I understand well how we think and how we see that aspect, and how important it is to be taken care of and not forgotten, which we have been forgotten in the industry, as we have been forgotten now with all this that is going on. Everybody talks about the restaurants are suffering and the bars are suffering, but nobody says promoters are suffering, and nobody knows what they even are.
At the end of the day, like, I think 100% I agree with that. I think nightlife does kind of take a back seat in terms of the industries that are getting a lot of the light right now in terms of being affected by COVID.
Yeah.
But like you said, like, why nightlife, as well as our experience, I think also, like, we really are passionate about nightlife. Like, not a lot of people can say that, but I think that, like, we do want to make a change in the industry in the sense of, like, it does have a really bad rap. And, like, we think that by, like you said, promoters are getting annoying, by making, like, promotion not annoying, but really attractive with these attractive event pages and,
hospitality. That's what it is.
Right.
Real hospitality, and, like, really serving that purpose that nightlife really is supposed to serve, which is, like, giving people a release at the end of their long week, and really just giving them a place to just be free and be themselves is, like, really what we want to promote. So deeper than just, like, the technology, like, our real mission is really just take away that kind of bad rap that nightlife has, and really just propel it to the front, kind of, and get some more consumers involved.
Yes, sir. Something else, going through this whole, COVID situation, what are the things that you have added to this that relate to COVID, or that you are thinking of maybe, bringing into the app?
Actually, one of our first clients.
I'm sorry I said app. again?
One of our first guys that we're doing an event with this weekend requested that there be a touchless bottle ordering feature. So basically where you can scan a QR code from your table and swipe through the available bottles and order from your phones. That's like our main COVID-related feature, I'd say, that we're pretty excited about.
Yeah, just going into the technicals, like it basically there's a different QR code for every table at the event. People would scan it, and then the event curator, like the big promoter, like you're saying, or whoever they want on their team to text, will get a text that says, table 2, order 2 Grey Gooses, and then they basically act as a runner, and they can bring it out to them. So that also helps reduce the cost of bottle girls while people are kind of trying to reopen and, cut costs. We think that, obviously like the relationships matter and bottle girls do help to propel sales. But if people are trying to think of how can I reopen and save some money, that is a tool we've implemented so that you can kind of, have basically 1 or 2 runners, not really have to hire your whole staff back in terms of waiters and waitresses, and then just automate that whole process. And it eliminates the need for a paper menu as well. It's all online.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. Guys, where can people follow you so that they can check this out?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's at Posh Group NYC, POSH Group NYC. And then obviously our website is just posh.vip. And then again, they can contact me at Avante, AVANTE, at posh.vip. And we're really just, even if people, just want to talk, we're really just looking for feedback and really just love having a sounding board for anything. So really love to just make new connections and talk to anyone that's interested.
Right. Which, by the way, another thing that I don't think I mentioned or you mentioned is the fact that it's not like a monthly fee or anything, right? This is basically based on sales.
Yep. 100% commission based, and you can pass that fee on to your consumers as well. Right. And we're also offering people free access for their first few events as we approach our launch as well to get people involved.
That, and you can also have, for example, some free tickets. And if you have a free ticket, that means that you're not paying a fee for those. You are also currently not charging for SMS messages at the moment, correct?
Nope, that's also included. So the fee is the exact same as Eventbrite right now, but it's again passed on to the consumer. So actually our users are not paying anything, but it's it's a 70% plus $1 per ticket.
Got it. Do you have any idea as to what amount of SMSing would start to become an issue with having to charge for that?
Yeah, we did some calculations on that. If someone's sending out more than 5,000 SMSs per event they're doing, and that's per event considering about 100 ticket sales on average, which is actually pretty small. Once they start spending more than 5,000 for a 100-person event, that's when it starts getting a little taxing on us. So realistically, that wouldn't really happen. You know what I mean? Just thinking about those numbers, reaching out to 5,000 people for 100-person event probably would not happen. But again, if overhead became an issue, we could definitely implement it in. But right now, we really just want to provide a better service than the competitors at the same price. So, I mean, we don't want to be charging anymore. We think we can 100% do that. We're not really trying to profit right now. We're really just trying to get feedback and get as many people on board as possible.
Awesome. Guys, I really like the platform. I really think it has, you have something there that is going to grow. I don't know if you guys are also looking, besides people to join. I don't know where you're at as a company. So I don't know if you guys are also in any way looking for growth, investment, anything like that. If anybody there is interested, they can contact you also.
We have a growth equity firm behind us, but we're always looking for
when I say money,
collaborations and partnerships.
When I say money, Eli talks. See? Okay.
We're always open to partnerships, collaborations, investors that want to talk. Make sure to contact Avante at the email he gave, or just hit us through Instagram would be great.
All right, awesome, guys, and I back this up. I believe 100% what these guys are talking about is what it is. I like it. I checked it out, and we might be doing some things as well.
Thank you so much.
So guys, again, thank you for your time. I really hope things get back to normal in New York soon, because that means that Florida is closer to it as soon as you guys start to get closer to it. So again, best of luck. People remember to get my book on Amazon. You can follow me
Yes, sir.
at the Nightlife Entrepreneur on Instagram. You follow all the podcast episodes at the nightlifepodcast.com and nightlife.university. You can get all the courses and more information on these. Guys, thank you again and see you next week.
Thank you.